Okay, I see a lot of wonderful love in the chat. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Hello from San Diego. Oh my goodness. Yes, if you're interested and you would like to introduce yourself, please go ahead and drop your name, your business name, and your location in the chat. We'll be interacting with you there throughout. Hi from Chicago. Hello, good morning, everyone. Hi from the OC. Wow, we've got folks from all around, and I'm really excited to have all of you here today for this webinar on unleashing the power of storytelling. So we're going to get into that really quick here. I'm going to go ahead and start recording. That way, after this webinar, there we go. You guys will have access to the recording. There's going to be a lot of really great information here, and we want you to be able to look back at it. So, hi, everyone. Again, welcome to today's webinar about unleashing the power of storytelling, hosted in partnership with the PepsiCo Foundation's Impacto Hispanic Restaurant Accelerator. My name is Brittany Richardson. I'm the Business Engagement Specialist for AOF, or Action Opportunity Fund, and we are a national nonprofit organization that provides wraparound business resources to small business owners across the country, with a specific focus on women and entrepreneurs of color. AOF is one of the nonprofits implementing partners for the Impacto program, alongside Allies for Community Business, Lift Fund, and Prospera. A huge thank you to those wonderful partners, and of course the PepsiCo Foundation for their incredible support. So before I get to introduce our amazing speakers for today, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. You are all in the chat, and I am seeing you there. We have folks there to support you in English and Spanish. So if you have questions, or throughout the conversation, you have a question for our wonderful speakers, please drop it there, because they're going to be doing a live Q&A at the end, which is amazing. So please feel free to use that chat function. Like I said, we're recording today's webinar, and over the next few days, you will get a email in your inbox that'll be a recording of today's webinar, along with relevant resources for you in your business. And lastly, when the webinar concludes, we are going to be sending out a really quick survey right after you leave, just a minute or two. We would love your feedback. That way we can continue to make these webinars better. So let's start our conversation about unleashing the power of storytelling. I'm really excited to introduce our two speakers today. They both bring such a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the storytelling arena, and you guys are going to be just so excited after you hear all of this wonderful information. First, I'm excited to introduce Bricia Lopez. Bricia is an LA-based entrepreneur, acclaimed author, and chef. She is partner at Guelaguetza Restaurant, LA Temple for Oaxacan Cuisine, and recipient of the James Beard American Classics Award. In addition to the restaurant, she and her siblings launched two direct-to-consumer brands, their bottled cocktail mix, I Love Micheladas, and Guelaguetza Mole Starters. Bricia is also co-host of the top-rated Super Mamas podcast and has authored 2 cookbooks. Amazing. Hi, Bricia.
Myself. Hi, how are you? I know I have the most difficult name, number one, Bricia, to pronounce, and then my restaurant's name is Guelaguetza. No one knows how to pronounce that too. But yes, I'm from Oaxaca, Guelaguetza in Los Angeles. And yes, also co-owner of I Love Micheladas, a Michelada brand. So happy to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much. And thank you for helping me through, because, you know,
I always tell people the easiest thing, just ilovemole.com. If you inherited a really hard name, get a really good URL. That's number one. So ilovemole.com for all your needs. That's where you can find all my information.
I love that. That's like our first tip of the day, right?
Oh, yeah. Just get yourself a really good URL. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. And next, I'm excited to introduce Roberto Martinez. Roberto is the founder and CEO of Braven Agency, a digital marketing agency that he created to respond to the challenges that communities of color face with regards to technological advances. He is also a Google California digital coach focused on training and scaling diverse small businesses. His work includes partnering with government officials, chambers, nonprofits, and accelerators to bridge the digital divide. Hi, Roberto.
Thank you, Awesome. I love being here with y'all. Very excited to talk a little bit about branding and helping us humanize the brand for all entrepreneurs in this webinar. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Love it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's get into all of these wonderful tips. Bricia, I'd love to start with you. Could you please share some examples of how you approach storytelling in your own business's marketing and branding strategy?
Yeah, of course. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. The best advice I can give everyone here on this chat, and I think where they can get a lot of value is, nowadays, what I've realized is that customers connect with the founder more than with the brand, especially when you're a smaller brand, a new brand. People want to know who's behind it, the struggles behind the business, everything about it. Like, where does it come from? And everybody has a story. And I think knowing your story and knowing what you bring to why you're doing it, the reason why you went into business is probably to solve a problem, is probably to fulfill some sort of need that you needed yourself. So sharing that with your audience is very powerful, but also very important. The way I use it right now, obviously, is through social media. If you look at my personal Instagram, you will see that I have many collaborations with my brands, both my restaurant, my micheladas, and my siblings. So the way that we've done our strategy is basically story first with my siblings. I run the restaurant with my sister and my brother. So if you look at my sister's Instagram, my brother's Instagram, and mine, they're all very much the same, where we keep the same tone and the same messages across. That revolves around family, culture, and community, and tie those in with commerce. And the commerce part is through our businesses. We do a lot of collaborations through Instagram. We cross promote all our videos on TikTok. And we've seen exponential growth in our brand since we've done that strategy.
I'm on mute. Oh my goodness, rookie mistake. Thank you so much for that. That's such like a well-rounded idea. And I love the idea that folks respond to the brand owner.
Yeah, the founder stories are always the top performer videos that we have. Anytime we have videos where either me, my brother, or my sister speak on the brand, or speak on why we started it, or things that are happening with the brand, those videos always perform best, because no one will be able to tell your story better than you will, because it's your baby.
Yes, so true. I love that. Thank you. And Roberto, same question for you.
Yeah, I always think the Marvel heroes movies, when it comes to your brand, it's an origin story. What is your origin? Where did you come from? Superman, whatever it is. You want to connect with your audience in a very visceral way. Alicia said it perfectly well. When you talk about your own brand, you want to bring them into your journey. You want to have them opt in, if you will. And the way you do that is providing meaning and value to whatever activity you're doing. So for your own brand, it's an extension of who you are. And especially when you're starting off, you don't have the millions or billions of dollars to really invest into bombarding the airwaves, bombarding the TV and the radio. So you really have to create that personalized experience for your consumer to say, hey, I identify with this owner, I trust this owner, and I want to be part of their journey. And the way you do that is by, quote unquote, humanizing the brand, or else bringing yourself into that conversation, into their living rooms, into their social media sites, so that they can feel that they know you and they trust you, because that's really what it is. You are providing that trust because they don't know your brand. They don't understand what your brand symbolizes or represents. And the way you help them understand that is by saying, hey, my name is Roberto Martinez, you can trust me. And the more touch points, it's a marketing term, but the more you actually reach out and communicate who you are, why you're going to help them, and why you started this journey, the higher trust you have. And then you communicate that trust through your social media channels. The communication is the channels, right? The tactical approach of social media, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it happens to be. But it all starts with, why did I start this journey? And I'm going to be vulnerable and show you why I started this journey. Hopefully you trust me by my exposure of who I am and why I'm starting this journey. And if you do, we can go along in this journey together. And there's great brands like Alicia. I mean, she's a staple in downtown LA, and I would say Southern California for the food that she does. But it's because they trust her brand, they trust who she is. So when you do brand extensions, like she was talking about her michelada, they already recognize the brand, they already trust the brand. And then now when you offer a new offering, they're like, well, I trust that restaurant. I trust what I'm getting as an experience. I will be willing to buy their michelada because I already know what I get. And that all comes from that trust factor. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Oh, thank you. I also want to say, just kind of piggyback off of that, trust is built on your own truth. So the worst thing you can do is lie to anyone about who you are or what you do, right? Or try to be someone else. You can't not be anyone else. You can only be yourself. And I know that sounds like an Instagram post and people hear that all the time. And it's like, okay, but how? I think that number one is just, you cannot build trust on lies. And you have to speak your truth. So if you are selling, I don't know, a lip gloss, right? But like you don't use it and you're just doing it because you want to make money or because you found a niche, but you're not passionate about lip gloss, it's okay. You can say that and no one's going to not buy your brand for it. You're just going to connect with someone in a different way because you're speaking your truth. People are going to say, wow, this woman like never cared about lip gloss. And now look at her, like she's doing it and like she's killing it. And I love this lip gloss. I'm like, how is it working? So don't think you have to be someone for anyone. Like your truth is very, very powerful. So again, I think it's just about living your truth and like not faking the funk, because eventually everyone's going to catch on to this girl hates her lip gloss. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. That was just the first thing I said.
Totally know what you mean. And I think that is an excellent point. What both of you brought to the table is that your story, and it's about building trust, no matter what the truth is. If you love the lip gloss, if you don't like it or you don't use it, whatever, that's fine. But the element of trust is there. I love that. Okay, so my next question, how did you determine the story of your brand initially, and has anything changed? And I'd love to start with Bricia.
Yeah, well, again, with the truth, the story is that my parents came to this country in 94, and, you know, worked my way through the restaurant, worked in the restaurant food, in the food industry for a very long time. But now the way that it shifted is more of the story of how we deal with everyday problems and business solutions between my sister, my brother, and I, and the way we run our business. And, you know, the new generation taking over a brand that's been around for almost 30 years. So before, the story was these kids are embarking a new journey. Now is these kids are still in that journey, and this is what we're doing today. And now launching a brand of our own, 2 brands on our own. And it's a family, and, you know, run by 3 siblings. So now we don't even speak a lot about our parents or quote unquote origin story. Now we focus on the relationship between my siblings and I, the relationship of why we started the new brand, and also how we inspire our team. We talk a lot about the team that we have in the restaurant. My sister runs pretty much an all-female leadership team. We do a lot of stuff for female employees at the restaurant, our team members. We do seminars for them as well. We host different things for them. And we love saying that we love sharing those stories with people, because then our customers get to know them. And when they go to the restaurant, they like, oh, I saw you from Instagram, or like, I remember someone talking about you. So it really is just humanizing who we are. And also like being okay with sharing your wins with people and not feeling that you're showing off. I think we had a really great video that went viral when it was just my siblings and I at Costco, because they were celebrating that we were there. And it was kind of quirky and fun, and, you know, whatever, you never know with these videos, what's going to hit and what's not, but that one really connected with our audience. And, it's just about sharing the wins of immigrant kids. We're not even first generation. Like we all came to this country as children. So I think sharing your wins and sharing your journey today, that's kind of like sharing our journey today. That's how how story has changed, and not really speaking about when we were kids and my parents, is more about who we are today.
That's so cool. I love that. And I love how your story has changed, but kind of the universe and how you operate, it still has kind of the foundation of the things that you love, and your family is still obviously super involved. Very cool. Thank you. And Roberto, same question for you about how you determined your brand story, and has anything changed?
No, that's a great question. I'm still in my origin story. I started the company because we were part of a larger agency, and we were working with some amazing brands, or huge brands, the Ubers of the world and the Samsungs of the world. And it was great. When you start in marketing, you want to work with those larger brands. And I had a come into Jesus moment where personal tragedy was affecting my life. I was in New York and I was doing well. And I realized, you know what? A really close friend of mine passed away, and I realized it's great that I'm making money. It's great that I'm financially successful, but am I really happy? And what really truly makes me happy as a human being? That took me on a journey, and a spiritual journey of realizing who I am and what I want to be for myself, for my family, for my community. And as a result of that, I'm like, well, these large multinational billion-dollar companies do not need me. They could care less about me. But people like my mom, my uncles, my aunts that are entrepreneurs themselves, that are transitioning to this digital world but don't know how, I want to serve them. I want to be part of their journey. I want to learn about their mission and vision. And I want to go through my experience that I've gathered through school and working with other larger agencies, and bring that expertise to them, because not that they need it, but they're definitely at a disadvantage relative to the other organizations. And now my advisors and now my investors were like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. 1 hour worth of work from a big agency is 10 times the amount of a small startup or a micro or an entrepreneurial diverse, quote unquote. I don't like using that word, but just a minority or diverse business. And I said, no, that's my mission. I am going to say it as loud as I can. I'm going to live that truth, as BBC was talking about. And I don't care if it doesn't go anywhere. That's the space I want to live in. And so I started my agency as a response to that. I spun it off from the larger agency, and I kept talking my truth and speaking my truth. And I was lucky enough to be speaking that in Stanford at a leadership program. And there was a Googler in the audience, and she's like, I love your mission. I want to support you. And that's how I became a Google coach. And Stanford hired me as well to run some of their marketing, and it just snowballed into that because I didn't differentiate and I kept living that truth. And slowly but surely, clients are saying, hey, I opt into that mission. I believe in that work, which led to me having worked with the mayor's office a couple of years ago, creating and propping up a program where I helped diverse small businesses, quote unquote, digitize during the pandemic. And so you just keep living that truth and speaking the truth as best you can, even if you don't necessarily strategically have an end map or end road or end game, because you believe in that mission. And so I've been very, very blessed as a result of that. And we're still here as a result of that type of work. We actually launched a brand extension, which is a software tool that it's aligned with the work that I'm doing with the agency, but at scale. So it's not just good enough to work with 50 or 60 entrepreneurs. Now we're trying to work with 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 entrepreneurs and do this at scale, because it's great. One of my mentors always told me, lift where you stand. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to go across the United States. Like, do it within your community. And now I'm like, okay, I think I reached a level where I can expand on that, and the best way to do it is through a software tool. So we're focused in. The software tool is very excited because it allows us to have predictive analysis of small businesses and see where they're at in their journey, their life journey, and be able to provide them recommendations that helps them scale using those digital tools.
That is really wonderful. Like, so cool to hear about the scaling of your business. And I like what you said about lifting where you stand. You know, you can do that right here. So many important themes just through both of our speakers, just insight. So thank you for that. Okay, so storytelling. Bricia, I love to start with you on this one. Why is it so important to business and marketing success?
Well, it's the way that you can connect with your audience, is the way that you can find people who are like you, like-minded. And also, you know, when you go into business, you have to know who you're targeting, right? I think one of the best business advices I've ever gotten was become like your local townhome hero. I don't know, how do you say that? Someone help me with
Like
whatever. Hometown, not townhome. Hometown. Townhome is something else. Townhome is a place where you live. Hometown hero. So if, you know, the best advice I got was find a niche, whether that's your hometown or somewhere else. Find a group of people that can feel very, very passionate about your brand or what you're selling. Once you are able to secure those people and they're your fans and you can like do your hardcore fan, then you're able to expand. But you can't catch a big net and like try to figure out who you're trying to sell. Like you have to really narrow down on who your customer is, what they like to eat, what they dress, what music do they listen to, what drink do they drink? Do they drink Pepsi? You know, like what snacks are they eating? Who are those people that you're trying to reach? Who is buying your stuff? Because then you can then narrow down how you can connect with them and what part of you will connect with them. For me, we already know what those are. Very different from Guelaguetza than I Love Micheladas, very different customer base. And they're both part of me. They're both my stories and they're both what I like to do. And I'm selling to both parts of myself, but I have to know who they are in order to then know how to speak to them, right? I'm not going to speak to a 55-year-old tia, right? The same way I'm going to speak to a 27-year-old girl who's about to go to the club or about to go to a concert. Like it's two different. It's still me though. I can still be a 55-year-old tia because inside that's who I am. But I can also be a 23-year-old girl trying to go to a concert and like sneaking my michelada bottle. You know what I mean? So like I can do both, but I can't speak to them the same. And I think knowing how you speak to them is really important because then you can then figure out what story to tell.
I love that, especially since so many entrepreneurs, there's that spirit of entrepreneurship. So typically there's more than one business in the mix.
Yeah, but like you're trying to sell to everyone and that's not a good strategy. Eventually you'll get there after, 20 years of being in business, everyone will know you and everyone will, you can sell to a bunch of people. But I think especially in the first 5, even the first 10, it's very important that you narrow down who your customer is.
Yes, love that. That makes so much sense to success for businesses. And then Roberto, same question for you. Why is storytelling so important to business and marketing success?
Yeah, I think that really goes back to who we are as people, as humans. We started telling our stories as our legends and our myths. That's something that's hardwired into the human nature. And I think that's how we learn and how we communicate before we went to school and before there was written and audio and visual. So it's something I would call it primordial, and it's something that we can connect to. So having that story makes it shorthand. People don't remember facts and figures. People remember like the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you tell this collective story. And so it's extremely important for you as a company, as a brand, to really understand and hone in on what is your story, so that when the prospective customer connects with you, in touch with you, they get it right away. They don't have to think about it. And you can change that story as you develop and you grow, but you should definitely have that down there. It's not even the 30-second elevator pitch. It's like, why do I exist? What is the value I'm providing to the marketplace? And that's extremely important to really hone in on what is it? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? A lot of people say, I want to make money. I get it. We all want to make money, but it has to be more than just money. There has to be a cause. What is the solution you're providing to the marketplace? And what led you to want to live in that space? Because that's really what's going to pull you through as your own business owner as you're getting started. of why you're putting these 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week. And then people are going to connect to that story and say, you know what, they're living their truth. I see them everywhere. They're working really hard. I want to self-select. I think Patricia brought up a great point about segmentation of the marketplace and finding your champions. Unfortunately, I went to school for this, and they talk about, these stakeholder analysis, and, there's 4 different boxes and you have to identify it. But at the long and the short of it is, tell your story, see who resonates with that story. Those are your champions. Those are the people that are going to opt in and say, hey, I believe in the mission of Bricia. I believe in what she represents. I will follow her no matter what, and I love her. So that's your small core focus group that's really going to help you understand and be the foundation of your brand, of your company. And then they're going to give you the insights that you need to understand how to position yourself for the rest of the market. So they're going to tell you why I like you, what is it about your service or your product that I enjoy? Why am I so passionate about your product or your service? And then you take those quote unquote insights and then you communicate it across your social media and your messaging channels using those insights, using those thought processes. And that's really going to help you. And the way you do it is not by just telling them numbers, but by telling that story and connecting to that story to those segments of your population. And that's extremely exciting because that's how you start realizing that not that is a formula, but there's a method to the madness. It's not just like, okay, I'm just going to talk. No, well, why did they say yes? Oh, I know. Now I know. Let's see if that message resonates with these folks. And then you start segmenting it down. What about this age group? What about that age group? How do I communicate it? And I think the other piece that's brought up is in an authentic manner. How do I communicate to these different audiences in a way that resonates with each segment of the population? But it all starts with the story, right? It all starts with why, your why. Simon Sinek talks about that in his book. I mean, it's 10 years old, but it's still really relevant. Start with why. Why did I start this journey? And I think if you do that very well, you're going to have success to grow your company. At a minimum, you're going to have the foundation to build the brand.
Yes, so great insight about a very stable foundation, and then you can go wherever you want to go. Very cool. Okay, so Bricia, I'd love to kick it back to you and wondered if you could tell us some simple ways that you incorporate your brand story into your marketing, but specifically in your social media strategy.
Yeah. So if you go through my feed, again, I think the way that I do it is we have it segmented into at least once a week, we will post something that references back to some origin story of whatever we're doing, right? Whether it's promoting but not promoting, right? We are promoting, for example, our homes and or Airbnbs that we have just launched in Oaxaca, but we're not telling people, hey everyone, so this is my Airbnb, here's the link, please buy it, please go book it. It's more of, welcome to my home, this is how we got started, this is my dad built this. So we are telling the story and I'm not even selling it, I'm just talking about it. And then in the comments, people will start saying oh my gosh, is it available? And then I'll be like, yes, it is. And then if someone replies on the bottom, eventually, I mean, we already know someone is because it's kind of like a bait, right? When someone catches, then we get the comment and we reply, and then we do another video. I was like, oh, thank you guys so much for asking. We've gone so many things. Of course, you can, everything's on my bio. You to book it. And then that one was a collaboration with my Instagram page for my Airbnb. So then everybody just kind of gets funneled through there. So it is not about hi everyone, this is my special for today. It's more of eating your food in the morning and being oh, I remember this dish brings back so much memories. I ate it when I was a little girl and I'm so happy we're in the menu. And yesterday my mom came. So it's more about the story and not so much of, hey everyone, please buy this. So that's just one concrete example of how we do it. But we are always we are always storytelling. We are always sharing this because, again, people connect with people. And right now, everyone, there's so many brands right now. I always call them Instagram brands. The ones that they just get you, man. I don't know how. They're do I really need that pillow for my neck? Do I? maybe like I know nothing about the founder. I mean, those work too. Maybe I need to learn more about those sort of things, but I don't think those are going to be legacy brands. I don't think the pillow brand's going to be here for the next 20 years, right? These are just like in the moment. And that's not what I want to build. I want to build something that lasts. But there's so many Instagram brands right now that it's hard to get through the noise. And the only way you're going to do that is by sharing a story. But even those brands though, like they'll be like, my neck was hurting and yesterday I was doing this and that. And you're like, hey, what happened to your neck? You know, you're like, oh my God. And then what happened? Me too. And then you're like, oh, maybe I need it. Buy, shop now. So like they're doing the same thing. Like they're doing the same thing, you know? Also like the ones that are like, this viral thing on TikTok really helped me. I'm like, well, I went viral on TikTok, right? Like it's always, and who knows if that's real? I'm like, I don't even know if it's an actual viral thing. For all I know, they're just making that up, but it catches you and you're like, I want to hear more of this story. So like, it's just, and it goes against everything they tell you. They're like, make your videos quick and short. But when you're hooking someone in a story, they'll be there. They'll be there to the end. And you're like, and then what happened? Shop now, right? I don't know. It works.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny that you brought up a pillow because I've been getting these square pillow ads. I'm like, are we on the same Instagram feed? But yes, it's so true. Like there are a lot of brands out there, but I think to your point in creating that really authentic, like you mentioned with your Airbnb, like I would love to bring you into my home, look at my space, like that feels so warm and inviting and really keys in on that trust factor. And then of course people are going to ask and you can relate to that. But I love that. That's an excellent example. Thank you for sharing that. And reminding me I don't need that pillow.
But do you?
I don't. Roberto, anything to add on that question before we move along?
I wish we had MTV Cribs. I'd love to see the home in Oaxaca and send the MTV crew out there. No, I mean, yeah, the story is important. How you communicate that story is important. As you're developing out an understanding of what you represent, I'm a big believer in going back to your value proposition when you're creating the stories and where you feel that you fit in the marketplace. Like, what is my niche? What is my lane? And there's certain brands or certain companies that are starting up that they are really focused on the happy, exciting, playful. And so the type of content you're going to build out is exciting, happy, playful versus, let's say you're an accountant or you're a financial advisor or you're a bank, an accountant, let's just say, or financial advisor. It's a little bit more buttoned down. So the way you're communicating that story is going to be different than when you're selling a pillow. And so really honing in on that and creating really fun content. I always think that you educate and you delight, right? Like, how do we educate and delight at the same time? We're not selling, we're informing and we're delighting our audience in whatever shape, way, or form we can so that they could trust us. You know, I am a big consumer, not necessarily of social, but of YouTube and TikTok and Instagram short videos. Probably YouTube is probably my biggest channel where I spend a lot of energy. And the type of videos are always informative, always making you learn more about the brand, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter if it's a lawyer, it doesn't matter if it's a gym workout, it doesn't matter if it's a trip. I'm a big fan of surfing. I grew up in Southern California. In Oaxaca, there's a very beautiful coastal town called Puerto Escondido. And I just discovered it 4 years ago and I fell in love with it. And so now, like, every single time I go on YouTube, I see these influencers talk about Puerto Escondido and the different type of events and festivals that are going there. And they're developing out their own brand. And they're saying, hey, this is the space. If you want to learn about it, you should visit me. And then all of a sudden I get all these tourist videos of signing up for those tourist agencies to go there. And so that story for me is extremely important. Like, where do I live in this marketplace? How do I communicate that story? And is my brand a button down, sophisticated, serious brand, or is it a playful, joyous brand? Regardless, I'm informing and I'm educating and I'm delighting as opposed to pushing product. We don't ever want to push product onto our customer base.
I love that. And I love how, if you're not really sure where to start kind of deciding is your brand playful? Is it like what you mentioned? Those are some ways that you can identify it. Also, another question, just in case you had anything to add, if a business owner doesn't know where to start with their story or identity, where would you recommend they start, Roberto?
Every single thing you think Pepsi, you think about the different sports arenas when you go and you drink that drink, and they're associating this happiness with their soda. And so when you think about your brand, yes, you're providing a solution, but what is it that comes along with that solution? So when you think Starbucks, you think about it's coffee, right? And it's not, I mean, I'm not going to talk bad about Starbucks, but you know, there's other places that might have a better coffee, but it's giving you an experience that you're connected to and you feel some type of feeling towards. And that's extremely important, associating your product with your value proposition to an experience or an emotion. And as you start developing that out more and more and more, the customer is going to think, oh, every single time I touch this particular company, I feel this way. And now it becomes an emotional buy, you know, a buy so it's like a comfort food, if you will, like, oh my goodness, I love going to this restaurant because it makes me feel happy. And the more I go to that restaurant, the happier I am. So you start going to the restaurant over and over again. It's no longer about just eating there. And so that's extremely important as a small business, as you're getting started. Like, what am I doing to provide value to my community or to my customer? And then what kind of emotion do I want them to feel when they touch that brand?
Love that. Love how you mentioned bringing emotion into it, and that it's so much more than a cup of coffee or a drink. It's like so much more than that. Love that. Okay. Lots of love in the chat. And I'm really excited to see everyone so engaged. If you have questions, we'll be coming up on our Q&A in just a minute. And Bricia, thank you for sharing your handles. And Roberto, people are requesting your social media handles in the chat as well. So if you get a chance, I think we have some people who are eager to follow both of you all. Okay, so last question before we get into the Q&A. So Bricia, I'd love to start with you. There are so many different kinds of marketing tools. What are some of the common types of marketing tools, and how does a business owner know when it's time to incorporate something like that into their business?
Oh man, I think everything changed after Instagram allowed you to schedule your posts. I think like that was a really big one for us. We in the past had used Planoly. Later, we still use Canva. As far as, okay, so Planoly and Later are two platforms that allow you to schedule out posts. I think it's helpful for anyone who has this sort of mind where they need to see a calendar and know what's going to get posted. But if you're on a budget and you don't want to pay for this, you can do your own calendar, and you can schedule your own posts now on Instagram, which is, I think, very helpful for a lot of people, that they can just upload, or have someone help them upload and then just schedule it out. So that's helpful. I think Canva is a great resource for easy designs, right? That's a good one. And then my one that I always talk to all my friends about is just ChatGPT, because it's like the world is there and you probably get a lot more value from there than I can. And if you haven't been on there, I highly suggest you do. I actually use that a lot more than Google, and I'm starting to train myself to not use Google as much, but to train my brain to ask the right questions in order to receive the right answers. So ChatGPT to me has been really great in order to help me with copy, help me with strategy. It has helped me, like, I'll ask a question, and then I'll bounce the ideas off with my team. It has allowed us to come up with really good ideas. It's like almost like a sounding board and like someone else in the room. So I would say that is the best. Those are the best tools that I'm using today, and that I would suggest someone else using, would just be Canva, ChatGPT, and learn how to schedule posts on Instagram. And also, like, the collaboration posts with other people are very, very good. So if you want to build community with, and even here, right, like after this, message someone, create community, someone that's either from maybe not even that lives near you, but and here's another thing, another tip. Don't tell them, hey, like, what can we do? Show up with an idea. No one has time to come up with ideas for you. Nobody. Okay. Go to ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT for an idea, present someone with an idea where there's a win-win, and then create a collaboration post together. And that would make sense. And again, could grow both audiences. Just create value for yourself. Those I think would be the best advice I can give.
Ooh, I love that. There are so many actionable steps and whatnot to take part in. So cool. And thank you for sharing those very specific resources. And Roberto, same question for you. What kind of marketing tools would you recommend, and how does a business owner know when it's time to add one to their repertoire?
No, I absolutely love it. I think a lot of the ones she says are the ones that come top to mind. I think on the content side, especially design elements, Canva has changed the way any agency, any marketing company, any small business can work at scale, because there's so many templates already there. And I think the other one that I would highly recommend folks just dive into and dab their feet in is HubSpot. I think they have a lot of different platforms, templates there that you can borrow from. I always think about, you always start with your value proposition and your mission statement and what the value props are, like your value propositions, and you identify your segment of the market, who you're talking to, how you communicate to them, what they care about. And then you identify which channels they're in. Like, is my audience, if I'm a button down accountant in LinkedIn, probably more than Instagram, right? It's more important to be on LinkedIn than in Instagram. And so I'm communicating that using whatever third-party platform that allows us to schedule the post. There's a ton of them out there. Hootsuite's probably and Edgar are probably two big ones that everyone has used in the past. And you just schedule them out, set it and forget it. And you could create the content very quickly using Canva. So these tools are amazing. For photos are free. You don't have to necessarily buy them. Unsplash is probably the one that I recommend most startups to use. And then, I can't argue about Splash GPT. I think while the information is a little bit dated, like 2021, it's still really useful to help answer certain questions. And when you think about your small business, like does my customer respond to these type of questions? How do I get better insight into my customer journey? I think that tool is extremely powerful. And I think Vicia says it, nailed it on the head. It's it's really important to understand how to ask the question and make sure that response is responded in the way that makes sense for you as a small business owner. And the timing, I think timing is extremely important. Most people, you don't want to post on the weekend, right? Again, go to the HubSpot. They'll tell you.
No, listen, Roberto, let me tell you, I'm going to chime in here really quick because I don't believe in the timing situation.
Yeah.
I used to subscribe to the channel, but let me tell you, post all the time, no matter what. Post 7 days a week, because sometimes my Saturday posts blow up and not my Wednesday post. So I think that the timing thing totally made sense at some point. Sometimes my 3 p.m. does better than my 9 a.m., but sometimes my 9 a.m. blows up. If you have good content, if you are constant, it's going to happen. I think don't worry about the time. Train yourself to post every single day for a month, and you will see the growth and you will see what happens. It doesn't matter what time. It doesn't weekends, because no one's posting on the weekends. Sometimes you post on the weekends and that pops off. I had one that had 50,000 views out of nowhere on a Saturday morning, but I had never gotten that. So I think just post.
Yeah, that's useful advice if you're positioning yourself as the thought leader in the space and you're saying, I will be the face of this company and I will take ownership around that. And I think that's extremely powerful thing to do, just to go out there and post. I think it has a lot to do with your resources. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and are like, how do I create videos? And a lot of folks, when they start with their camera, they don't necessarily, I think you have to get there is what I'm saying. You just don't start with posting every single day. You have to build your messaging. You have to get there. So maybe the clients and the businesses here are already there and they can go out and really take ownership around their channels and say, hey, I'm going to post on TikTok and I'm going to post on Instagram, and I've already built that foundation. I don't need it. I think it's important to know when those businesses and those clients and those customers that you build the foundation in are there. And like you said, if it's on the weekends, it's on the weekends. My audience is not there on the weekends because I'm an agency and I'm a software tool. So if I could post all I want on the weekends, they're not going to come. Versus Wednesday, Thursdays, I get huge impressions, 5, 7, 10, 15,000 impressions on a given Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So it depends on your industry, your sector, and how much of a foundation you already built. And then cross promotion, like you nailed it. When I work with Google and we do a cross promotion, you know, that scales very quickly. When I worked with Meta or Shopify, they'll tell me, you know, we have a huge bump on the Thursday. We want to post on the Thursday. It's when we see the largest. So when you work with those partners, you have to be sensitive towards them as well. And I think bringing in those ideas with the different small businesses that you're working with, there's something to be said about that, especially when you're thinking about what, you know, I call it a client adjacent. So maybe you have a product that they need, but you're not in direct competition with. So really thinking about, okay, well, you know, maybe this person sells micheladas, like the sauce, and this person is microbrewer. That's a cross promotion that makes a lot of sense. So then you guys want to work together. So think through that as you're thinking through how to partner with different organizations, different small businesses, is what makes natural sense for me to partner with, because their audience base and my audience base are perfect for each other, and we're not directly competing against each other. I think that's really powerful.
Love that. Oh my goodness. So much great information, and folks are really feeling it in the Q&A and in the chat. So I'm really excited to jump into this live Q&A, because throughout, I think, sparked a lot of ideas for our entrepreneurs in the audience who are wanting to figure out how they can use and make this information applicable to their business. So the first question is for Bricia. How can you tell your story if you're super shy and don't like or feel like you're not good at public speaking or being on camera or social media?
Oh, who asked this question?
It was anonymous.
Oh,
So
anonymous. Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense, right? It's like, I'm shy. How can I ask this question? Well, write it out. Like Canva, I think it's a great tool for that. Write out the story, use words. Threads would be good, right? Because I think Threads, it's new. It's one where you can get your thoughts across. Or find someone in your organization that is this person that can tell the story. I understand that, like, so a lot of people aren't as open or public or really want to put themselves out there. Completely understand. Like my sister used to be like that too. But she's gotten kind of used to it now and started doing it more, and now like loves it. So I think that if you want to do it, you don't have to. Like the brand can be out there without anyone knowing and there's so many successful brands that do this without anyone putting their forefront forward. Like there are. But I think by writing and by using graphics, I think it's a really, really good way. Or just like slides too. I think carousels are great, you know, like how we started. And it'll be like year one and year 2, year 3. I think like there's so many different things that you can do. And I think for that person, Canva would be a very, very powerful tool.
Yes, I love that. I also love scrolling through those just as like a social media consumer. So, okay, thank you so much. Okay, our next
That was helpful.
Yes, I think it was for sure, because it gives additional options. Like you don't just have to do video. Okay, so our next question, I'm going to kick it to Roberto. It says, what if the business approach is to make it brandable and duplicate it and appealing themselves to investors and franchises, like they want to scale. But if they make the brand too dependent on themselves, wouldn't it be bad for the long run goal of the growth of the business?
No, I mean, that's a great, there's multiple questions there. Like first one is like, I want to raise capital. I want to raise, bring in investors. And so that's its own set of challenges and opportunities that you have there, because you want to make sure that your product is scalable and you bring in a healthy return on investment, like 3x, 5x, 7x. And so when you're thinking about that, you have to create processes and procedures that can scale. And that's what they're going to want to see when you're talking to investors. It's like, have you doubled year over year? What's the revenue growth? What's the EBITDA? And so those are a whole different sets of challenges. I always think about your industry sector and then replicating what has happened and then seeing how you could recreate the game. So you look at your industry, you look at where they're at and what other companies that are similar to you have done. And then you put your own spin on it. Like, what can I do differently from this particular industry and sector that has seen success to replicate it? Either way, the easiest way to start is to have an individual. It could be an avatar. I think Brisa said it best. If you don't feel comfortable, you could do cartoons, whatever it happens to be that represents your brand. That becomes scalable. But even the brand extensions, it becomes really easy when you yourself are representing the brand and saying, I vouch for this brand. And as you start scaling, as long as there's revenue coming in and you're doubling the company year over year, it's easier to get investors and to get the extensions that you want for the different brands that you want. But I wouldn't create problems when there aren't any problems yet. So get there and then worry about it then. I don't think you worry now. Like the more important thing is to make sure your company is profitable and growing at the rate you want it to grow so that you can bring in investors.
Love that. Such a good point. Like, deal with those good problems when you get them. I love that, because once you're scaling, that's good stuff. Okay, so this question is about Facebook. Is Facebook not a viable option for social media? So we talked a lot about Instagram today. So I'd love to kick it to Bricia for this one.
It just depends on the brand that you have. I would say it depends on, strategy. It doesn't work for us as for just doesn't, I do something that I pay attention to. I think in an ideal world, I would do everything I would just repost on all social media channels. But I choose to focus on two, which is Instagram and TikTok, because those work for me right now. But I don't personally, it doesn't work for my brand. For my restaurant, we use it for certain things and it works very well. Doesn't really work. It doesn't translate for a Michelada brand, but for my restaurant, it really does. I think just finding whatever your brand, I think that really is the best. Some people will say, do everything, right? And I think that's also good advice. Do LinkedIn, do YouTube, do Facebook, do Instagram, do TikTok, do Threads, do Twitter, or I guess it's called X now, like do all of those, right? I think ideally like yes, and, but I think it's also, there's a lot of value in figuring out which one works best and then going all in on whichever works best.
Love that. Thank you so much. And I feel like we have so many good questions because this topic just really speaks to people. I think there's a lot of ideas that are getting sparked and I love that. But unfortunately, we are out of time. An hour is it's not a long time, but there were so many great resources, things mentioned today. Thank you to Bricia Lopez and Roberto Martinez for being our amazing speakers for today. Thank you for everyone being engaged in the chat. Thank you to the PepsiCo Foundation and our local partners for the Impacto Hispanic Business Accelerator, including Allies for Community Business, Prospera, and Lift Fund. And just thank you to all the entrepreneurs who took time out of your day. We hope this was really helpful and we can't wait to see your business thrive. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.